and we got a topic today that I've covered before years ago, and it's one that bothers me. But go ahead and introduce yourself, Jimmy, and let's talk about today's topic.
All right. So my name is Jim Howard. Welcome to True Christian Talk. What happened a couple of days ago, last week, I heard something about USA Today faces backlash and deletes series of tweets which normalize pedophilia by claiming it is misunderstood and a condition determined in the womb. And so I immediately reached out to Kevin because Kevin had done a God Logic Project talk one time about how pedophilia was trying to be normalized, trying to be made to where exactly what USA Today said, there's a lot of misunderstanding. And so when we got into this, we talked about several different ways that they're doing this. We kind of talked about the tweets. Now, to give you an example of one, because we got the tweets, it says in recent decades, you had it.
All right, we have the UK Daily Mail site here.
And if you go down.
All right, it's on the screen now.
Yeah, it says there that in recent decades, the science of pedophilia has improved. One of the most significant findings is that pedophilia is likely determined in the womb through environmental factors. Environmental factors may influence whether someone acts on an urge to abuse. Well, I'm kind of listening to this.
So they didn't just tweet; they tweeted like a continuous tweet.
Oh yeah,
really
it went
long,
on. It went on. When most people, the public, think of pedophilia, they assume it's synonymous with sexual abuse. Well, okay, I just said, let me go look at the definition of pedophilia. And the first thing it says, and this is the American Heritage Dictionary, and it said a sexual perversion in which children rather than adults most strongly excite sexual desire and are used as sexual partners. So it calls it a sexual perversion. Now, USA Today is trying to make it like, oh, it isn't a sexual perversion. It's in the womb.
It is, yeah.
So it's natural. It's natural. So they continued on. And listen, neither one of us are psychiatrists or doctors, are we? I mean, no. We've never claimed to be. But when they kind of quote these statements, you kind of have to go back and look at some of these people. You know, it's just scary how they want to normalize it, but yet at the same time, how do we handle it as a Christian? So that's where our topic is going to kind of go today, because there's a lot of things that fire Kevin up. I mean,
this is going to be. I pride myself on somebody that doesn't get triggered very easily. This is something that bothers me. So. We may be doing a point counterpoint thing here because
well, we both See, that's not true. We both agree on that this is a terrible sin
and a mental illness
and a mental illness.
So the problem I have is obviously hurting children. So I said we'll give a little background for why. I mean, I said years ago, maybe 15 years ago, maybe more, that eventually they'll normalize pedophilia and I said that some professor I said Harvard, but wherever, is going to say, some psychologist from Harvard is going to say it's better for the child to be led through the sexual experience first with an adult than not, or something along those lines. They're going to make, and that argument is still to be made. But are they not now setting the stage? Here's the part that bothers me. They're setting the stage now. They're normalizing. They're softening the language around it so that when the time comes that some expert says that it's good for a kid to be in a loving, healthy, monogamous relationship maybe, or they'll use words that we would embrace as positive, that it would be better for the kid. This is like being a father, having been a kid in my life, having been abused as a kid in my life. This is something that really bothers me. So I understand the sin nature behind it. I understand the mental illness, or I think I do understand the mental illness behind it. But my fear is that once we begin to normalize it, we'll eventually have to celebrate it.
And that's the concern, and that's why we're talking about it today. I mean, that truly is the concern, and I agree with you on everything you said, Because you talked about a professor, okay? There was a professor at Old Dominion that said that we need to change the name of pedophile to MAPS, or minor attracted people.
Right.
And that's minor like the minor, under 18.
Under 18,
yeah.
People that are adults that are attracted to children.
To describe people attracted to children, exactly. And he says it's less stigmatism than other terms like pedophilia. A lot of people, when they hear the term pedophilia, they automatically assume that it means sex offender, and it isn't true. And now, see, when you say that, and it isn't true, that's who we associate the word pedophile with, a sexual offender. Let's look at this a little bit. Let's look at this. Let me just say it this way. If I were to walk through life having desires for children but never, ever acted on it, nobody would ever call me a pedophile. If I had a normal life where I never acted on it, but it was just one of these things that little children attracted me, we would never know about it. How many of your friends, I mean, I've got friends that are alcoholics, but until they come to you and say, I'm an alcoholic or I'm a recovering alcoholic, you might never know.
No.
You might never know.
Well, so you're right. But that applies to any sexual perversion that we might have. It really kind of applies to our adulterous hearts as well. So it isn't the act, the sexual act that's or it isn't the person harboring that mental illness or that sin nature,
right.
But it's the manifestation. It's the romanticizing of it's the fantasy that goes along with the
right.
sin nature that
right.
ultimately manifests itself in real life.
Right.
But here's the problem. That is very, very true, and these people need help. But how often have we, as a society, made the mistake of saying that whatever you are is perfectly fine, and so it's just the way God made you, right? And so now you should not feel guilt. You shouldn't even resist it. In fact, we as a society should lift you up and embrace you through this. We see it with transgenderism, right?
Listen, you and I, like I said, we're on the same page. We're talking about this. I'm not justifying this at all. All I'm trying to say is you talked to me about a TED Talk.
Yeah, the lady.
We're
going to show it in a little bit.
Yeah, where a German doctor came out and talked about it. And the thing that she said, which concerned me, is as Christians, God tells us to love everybody. Now, it's difficult for you and me. Look, I'm law enforcement. All right, here you go. Wait a minute. What does Christ say about hurting little children? What does Christ say? Matthew 18:6 says, but whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him to have a great millstone fastened around his neck and to be drowned in the depth of the sea. It would be better for him, Luke 17:2, it's better for him if a millstone were hung around his neck and were cast into the sea, than he should cause one of these little ones to sin. I don't know how blunt you can get about how Christ feels about this when we injure children, when we take away their purity, when we take away their innocence, when we put them in an environment that we all know is a sin. There's no doubt that everybody knows that it's a sin. We know this, and I agree. I'm just saying that if, as this doctor said, we need to make sure these people know that there's help out here for them.
And I would agree with that. I think the question becomes hate the sin, love the sinner, right?
Exactly.
And that goes, people mock that, they make fun of that, but that's really good advice for a Christian.
Right.
So it is always for us to help people that truly want help, but we're supposed to be as cunning as serpents and as peaceful as doves, right?
Right.
So we're not sent out to be devoured by the world, but to correct the world, to rebuke the enemy.
Sure.
These types of things. So it's not just Jesus was a Capricorn. Every sin is wonderful. Jesus loves you right where you are, which is very true. But he doesn't want to leave you there, right? So it is the difference here, the two different directions that we're pulling in here as a society and as you and I as the church in this case, is that the world is going to want to make this normal. It's going to want to make it healthy. It's going to say they're not taking their innocence. They're not harming those children by doing this.
Yeah.
In fact, the world is somehow entitled to that child's innocence, and that we somehow owe the pedophile or the map or whatever you want to call them access to fulfillment of their feelings.
And that's where it's so wrong.
And that's where
it's scary.
In America, in the world, that's where it always goes, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'll take you back. You know, I was always I still kind of a centrist, right? And I was maybe saved, maybe not, but it was a long time ago. It was probably before I was saved, but there was talk. Obama was president, so it was right around the time that I got saved. There was talk about civil unions, right? So that two men or two women who've built a life together should be covered by each other's insurance and have right of inheritance and things like that. Now, I had a lot of friends, a lot of customers that were gay and were they built nice lives together, right? 20 years, 30 years, whatever. They should be entitled. So I was for civil unions.
Right.
It took a year, maybe. It took months, a matter of months before they started calling it marriage.
Right.
And then it took just a couple of years later, they were trying to force churches to do it, and churches embracing it for what I would say as a profit motive, as I don't want my church to go out of business. I don't want to lose my career. I don't want to thin my flock. So I will now embrace this thing.
Well, yeah, we don't want to lose our 501c3 status because the government now supports this. And if we don't, then we're in trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly what you're talking about. It's every time, as what's his name, the guy from Texas that was running for president said, if you will not perform a gay marriage, why should I allow you to have a 501c3 status?
Yeah.
I mean, he came right out and said it.
And they equate it to, say, civil rights laws and the civil rights movement of the 60s. And I often wonder how the civil rights leaders of the 60s, like Martin Luther King, Reverend Martin Luther King, would embrace that comparison.
Yeah.
So here it is. I'm a little upset, so I just screwed up the camera angles a little. But here's the lady that I saw years ago. This is from 2018, and she's on TED Talk. This is Answers in Genesis, covering her TED Talk thing. But this was a TED Talk that a lady did, a doctor, a psychologist did, that was beginning to, what I thought was beginning to soften the language around pedophilia. And so this was alarming to me. This isn't the actual video, and Answers in Genesis is not really an organization that I see eye to eye with in a lot of ways.
Right.
But we will play the video through their website here, so we got to give them credit.
I want to quickly summarize where we are at the moment. According to current research, pedophilia is an unchangeable sexual orientation, just like, for example, heterosexuality.
All right, so boom.
Well, she's saying it's normal.
It's normal. It's as normal as heterosexuality.
Yeah.
I will, and I'll go out on a limb here and say everything outside of heterosexuality is abnormal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not God's design.
No, it's not.
I don't
God's
hate them.
design.
I don't hate anybody. I love everybody, but it don't tell me that all sexual proclivities are normal.
Right.
And so here we see the comparison between normal heterosexuality and pedophilia.
Sure.
And an audience that is open-minded to this. I, by the way, am not open-minded to this.
No,
I'll go on record.
Yeah, I am not either. But I do know that there was another video out there.
We got her too, but I don't know where to start her.
Don't start it. If people want to listen, just go out. She works for the police department. She helps in arresting pedophiles, and she's very much involved in it. And all she was saying, as I kind of said before, if people have these desires, they need to go get help.
Yeah, and that's this lady up top here. By the way, there's a ton of content on this topic, which is shocking. But there is literally plenty of content. So don't take our word for it.
I listened to the whole 17 minutes of her because
this lady.
Yeah, I kept thinking to myself, she's going to say something that's really going to irritate me.
Well, this is so here's the thing. We've begun to, or my fear would be, or my prediction, by the way, is that that P or M, for that matter, will eventually be at the end of LGBTQIA or whatever the other ones are. So that we will progress like we've always progressed into not only accepting these things, right, or tolerating these things, but that now we need to celebrate these things, or there'll be legal consequences.
Yeah.
Right. Ask the baker in Colorado.
Sure.
And now, and
we've had that conversation about that because a friend of mine said he should have made the best cake ever for the wedding. Just said, listen, I'm not going to decorate it with whatever.
Go buy that yourself. Yeah,
go do that yourself. But he said I would have made the best cake ever, and had all across my walls Bible scripture. It's just like the wine. It's just like the wine. When Jesus made he turned the water into wine. It was the best, my friend said, and it caused me to stop and think because I was behind this baker like 100%. I'm like ready to send money to him and all these things like this. And when this friend of mine said what he did, I just was like, wow, what a thought. He said, I would have said, I'll make you the cake. I'm just not going to decorate it with two men on top. You do that yourself. And when they had the cake and looked at each other and said, this is the best cake ever, where did you get it? It would go to his business. And now what has he done? He has shined the light of Christ. He has shined the light of Christ.
Given the opportunity.
Given the opportunity. So, and now when they came in, they would know that he's a Christian, but they're buying from him.
Well, and that is beautiful. It would make a great Hallmark movie on Sunday evening.
Yes,
except that the cake wasn't the goal.
No,
that wasn't the only. That wasn't the only baker in Colorado. Yeah. That's the only guy that said he wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Right. So we look at that lady. Was it West Virginia, Kentucky, where the lady said she wouldn't?
Oh yeah, it was.
Like a state clerk or a county clerk. So these guys travel to that county to get their marriage license with cameras.
Right.
So it wasn't about the marriage license. Right. It wasn't about the cake. It was about the assault or the shutting down of a Christian worldview.
Right.
So again, we need to be cunning as serpents, but as peaceful as doves.
And
so we have to be realistic and logical about these things. And I would love for everybody to love each other, but that's not the world we live in.
And all these things that you're saying are absolutely true. I cannot tell you how many times our church has had people that have come into the church that said at one time they were gay, and they believed that they were born that way, and they believed that this was a life that they were going to live, and then they would have a Christian counselor sit down and just talk to them. Just say, hey, how do we do, what was your childhood like? What was this? What was this? What was this? And they were able to go back and pin it on how they had grown up, what they had been through. And the two people that were on the stage who now work in this type of ministry just said it came to them that it was because of the way that they were brought up, the way that they were raised, not having two parents, having one that hated the other one and all these different things like that, that they realized that that's what influenced them to think that this is a normal lifestyle.
And that is, so here's the thing. So the argument is, and I agree that it's not the, that it is the act that is the problem, not the proclivity, although we don't just leave the proclivity alone, we fight, right? We resist that proclivity. It goes the same with adultery. Now, I'm a single pastor who is celibate, right, for years and years, and so I'm able to do it. So to say that, and one day I could get married and have sex, and that's fair enough. But it hasn't happened yet, right? So maybe it doesn't happen. Maybe I'm like Paul in that sense, and that's fine with me. But the argument is that they don't have that option within the church or within the eyes of God, which is very true. But it doesn't mean that sexual drive is more important than your spiritual relationship with your Creator. So it is, in a sense, idolatry. It is making an idol of your sexual proclivity rather than your Creator God. So to argue anything else, you would have to argue to me that their sex drive is somehow stronger than my sex drive because I'm able to not do it. Why aren't they able to do it?
Yeah. I had this conversation the other night at my small group that I facilitate. This guy, I talked about how I had went on Instagram and was looking at the comments on something somebody had said. And a person had made this comment, and I went to click on that comment and got the one below it. And this woman popped up, scantily clad in her Instagram profile, that I was like, oh my gosh, this is allowed. Quickly got off of it and, just said, I'm not going to look at comments anymore. Now I'm afraid to go to comments.
I got rid of Instagram for that reason.
Yeah.
It was too tempting.
Yeah. Because I'm not, yeah, exactly. We have to be on Instagram. I mean, Trinity Security Allies is on Instagram. I think that we should be on Instagram. True Christian Talk should be on there, just so that we advertise so that people can hear about us. But the thing is, you can use the internet for good. We use it all the time for good. We're doing live stream, all this stuff like that. We're getting the word out. What are we doing here? We're using the internet. But yet, we have to guard ourselves at all times at what is going out there. So anyway, I was telling the guys about this at Monday Night Men's Group. And I said I had to immediately get off that because it was too tempting to go down and look at more to see if you could find more. So I said it was too tempting to do it. So I had to say, Lord, please just, let's just don't go to comments anymore. One of the guys that's all into, sexual issues and thinks that we're all, going home and looking at porn when we get finished, just said to somebody else that I was so old that this didn't attract me. And I was like, really, dude? Where are you? I'm a man. I'm not that old. I'm not dead.
Well, people say because I'm a pastor, I shouldn't struggle.
Yeah.
Well, I got news for you. I'm ordained. I'm not a eunuch.
Yeah. Well, we've
we've
seen what has happened with priests and things like that.
Yeah, that suppress it, right? Or don't come out, by the way, and talk about it.
Yeah.
So here's another. We'll keep the conversation moving here. Here's another thing that I'm going to play for you guys, and this I played on God Logic Project. This is from Good Morning America, and I'm going to say this is Michael Strahan from the New York Giants. Now watch the audience and watch carefully. If I'm not mistaken, there's about 100, 150 people in the audience, and I only see one dude not clapping and laughing at this, all right? So tell me if I'm wrong about that, but watch this.
And if you haven't heard the name Desmond Napolis, get ready for this trailblazing 11-year-old drag kid who RuPaul is calling the future. His bravery is inspiring so many.
Hear the words
they're using. In just a moment,
Yep.
But first, let's take a look at his amazing story.
So he is, fast forward a little bit, but he's a kid who's
11 years old in this video.
He's a boy dressing like a girl, and he's about to do a striptease.
Yeah.
And this is national TV.
Right. Good Morning America.
Good Morning America. Michael Strahan, and this is now, right?
Yeah.
This is just a couple of years ago. So this is Good Morning America. This is a little boy dressed like a girl stripping for an audience that is thrilled to see it. Look at them. Now, I've scanned the audience trying to figure out who wasn't thrilled. This dude right here. See him?
Yeah.
I mean, look at these old ladies. Look at this dude. So this is... Now, I'm pissed again. So I shouldn't even have played that. This is the road that this is going on.
Yeah.
Right? So if that German doctors was a standalone situation, like they led off with pedophilia and it hasn't progressed in other ways throughout our society and worse into the church, I think some of these arguments would be good, but because this, like everything else, gets steamrolled through society and into the church and into Christianity, that I think there is for me very little reason to embrace this. And I have I have friends and family members of every, except for maybe pedophilia, although they wouldn't tell me if they were, I'm sure.
Right. No, yeah.
Just part of was part of what we're talking about.
Right.
But I know transgender people, I know lesbians, gays. I'm fine with it. We all get along. We talk all the time. But I have a bigger problem with this than the others. And the big problem I have is that what's next? Right?
Yeah.
What's next? Why do we keep
yeah.
driving this
Yeah.
home? And why can't they leave their hands off the church while they do it?
Right.
What's the spirit behind
But
that?
yeah, here's the spirit behind it. It's just like they're doing right now. It's just like they're doing right now. If you don't vote for the voting changes that they're trying to push through, you're a racist.
Yeah.
This is how they do this. This is how they do this. So if you as a Christian do not agree with what we're showing up here, all these different things, if we do not agree with this, then we're hypocritical.
Right. Or
or
hateful or phobic
or phobic. All the names that you want to put out there.
Why let just the left,
Yeah.
even though they control education and media and all that, why let them define the terms? Because they clearly change the definitions to suit themselves.
Yeah.
Critical race theory, as long as they stop calling it critical race theory, they
Yeah.
can continue to teach it.
Right.
It's insanity. It's absolute insanity. Right. And now I'm really fired up because we're transitioning into the church part of things here.
Well, before you get there, it's just like you said, we changed the name. We changed the name to make it less, offensive to somebody. If you and I walk into if we walk into a room with a bunch of people and we just look over at a stranger and said, "You're a pedophile," people would want to beat him up.
Yeah.
People would move away from him, even though it's not true. We just did that. We just threw it out there. Well, you love, little children. We all love little children, but we can't be, we don't lust after little children. We need to understand this.
There's different types of love.
Yeah.
According to the ancient Greek, there's 5 different types of love.
But if I look at somebody across the room and go, "You're a pedophile," people are going to move away from them. So a college professor, Old Dominion in Norfolk, I hate to say that, wanted to change the name to minor attracted people, or MAPS. Now that's not as offensive. If somebody just looks at you and says, "Well, I'm not gay, but I'm MAPS," and you're kind of like, "What the heck does that mean?" Minor attracted people, or people attracted to children.
But
we take that word pedophile out because we don't want to use it because it may offend somebody.
Because it's offensive. So then I had an instance where somebody in our worship was nobody knew, but he professed himself to be pansexual. Any kind of sex is cool. Is all right. He's attracted to every dude, every woman, every kid. I don't know what pansexual. I think it means everything. That's the definition of pan. So we sat down and talked to this kid and said, "Listen," he's 20-something years old. So listen, we want to help you through this process. Right. He said he didn't want to change, that it was okay. So he's no longer in leadership at the church, and of course got his feelings hurt and stopped coming to this church. That is, you can call it anything you want, but it's sin. Right?
It is.
So there's a standard. There's a different standard for attending my church,
right?
And as for being in leadership at my church. So we had this little kid. He's 15, 16, severely overweight, gender confused. I won't use his name, but he was one night. We had the kids building open for a church service we were doing. And I walk in there, and he is sitting at the desk where we receive parents with children, painting his fingernails with colorful nail polish. The person running my kids program is standing at the desk laughing, and my then probably 10-year-old daughter standing there wondering what's going on.
Mm-hmm. So
this is not something that I haven't dealt with and tried to deal with it compassionately. But the bottom line is this. I love you. You got to get up. You can't be sitting there doing that.
Right.
I had somebody a family member go change a shirt because they had I don't know what it was, Heineken shirt on or something like that. I said, no, you can't have that shirt and be sitting at this desk leading a program here because this is a recovery program.
Right.
So here's the thing. I have friends who would be okay with the drag queen story time in the libraries, public libraries. They would bring their kids. They would feel better about themselves. We can unpack that any way you want, but I think that goes to low self-esteem and adults needing their kids, needing society to love them more than they should. But this is where this is a big problem for me. What we're about to show, and this is right now. It's 9 days ago in Chicago, Illinois. Well, let's just show it. This is a pastor, Pastor Aaron Musser of St. Luke's Lutheran Church, Logan Square in Chicago, recently dressed in full drag for the Sunday service, wearing a long white dress emblazoned with golden cross on his chest and a long blonde wig and full makeup in order to lead the children's message. The pastor began the message by calling the children to the front to sit down and asked if they would ever seen a drag queen before. The kids responded in the negative. I have an awesome story to share with you. I am a boy most of the time, and when I'm here, but today I'm a girl. This is, I want to be perfectly clear, this is a major denomination. This is a pastor. And this is how he led his church 9 days ago in Chicago, Illinois. And he felt safe enough to do it.
Yeah, he felt okay.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
So the people that run this church must have, I don't think he surprised everyone. I think they thought they were doing a tremendous work here. Mm-hmm. This is demonic.
That's
all it is.
It is.
This is demonic. This is an assault on the church. Christians, you cannot play with this.
No.
This is not okay.
Yeah.
I love this person. I pray for them. I hope they get help. I think they should be removed from their church. If not, that church should be shut down, or the Lutherans should cut off ties with this church. But this is, I mean, look at what we're looking at here. Mm-hmm. Now they are doing it in order that they would celebrate. I forget what they called it exactly. I'll try to find it again, but they go through the pronoun thing here.
Okay, while you're looking for what you're looking for, let me ask a couple of questions here, and this is where I think that Matthew's 18:6 comes into play, and Luke 17:2. Where can you find it in the Bible that they say that this is okay?
Yeah,
when we talk with people that are coming into Scripture, learning about the Bible, learning about what's going on, and you know how to justify things. The thing I always tell them to do is to look it up in the Bible. Find it in the Bible, and we'll talk about it. I always had this joke: I want to retire, and I say that God told me that if I could find retirement in the Bible, that He would talk to me about it. And it's kind of like that ongoing joke because it's really not in there. Find it in the Bible that it says that you are okay. You're okay. I mean, to have sex with a child. Tell me in the Bible where it says that this is okay to do this, dress up as a drag queen and tell a Bible story. That sometimes I like to act like a male. Sometimes I act like a male most of the time. And then, you know, the next thing you know, I want to dress up as a female. It's crazy. Find it in the Bible, folks. Well, because if you can't, but whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better to have a great millstone fashioned around his neck and to be drowned in the depth of the sea.
This is, by the way, the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America has functions. See here, the ELCA has youth gatherings, and they renounce the lie that queerness is anything other than beauty. There's an 11-year-old girl put on stage to promote change. This is probably the same kid. A youth, 11-year-old boy thinks he's a girl, was put on stage to promote transgender. Probably the same kid earlier. So that's brave and wonderful and powerful. By the way, that father, the family of that little boy, the mother is very overpowering and domineering. I saw an interview with them, and the father sits there quiet with his head down, face down, hands folded, and lets the mother do all the talking. So I say that to say this, men. We have to begin to start acting like men again if we stopped. I mean,
exactly.
It is you are the spiritual head of that household. But listen to the logic here is, Mother God, you have fed us with the nourishment of your spiritual food, raised us up into salvation, rid us of bitterness, so that we may share the sweetness of your Holy Spirit with the world. Is their tweet regarding this this transgenderism. So this was to be a celebration of sweetness for the this is supposed to be a celebration of sweetness and not the promotion of the normalization of transgender and, by the way, the sexualization of children. So this is
you're so angry over this.
I can't even get two thoughts together. This is because it's coming to the church, right? Because they will at one point it'll come to your family to the extent that if you do not acquiesce and be part of this, you will be considered a child abuser, and the state will take your kids, right? So we've already had in Pasco County here in Florida where they had LGBTQ clubs on the DL for kids, and the parents weren't allowed to know that the kids were there. The parents were not allowed to see the curriculum. They weren't allowed to know what was going on. They weren't allowed to sit in on it. So this is the state thinking that they know what's better for your kids.
Connecticut passed a law a while back. It was several years back, that if your child wants to come to school and change to the gender that they prefer, like they come to school as a boy and want to change to the gender that they prefer, a female, that the school would not tell the parents.
Right.
The school could
a minor child.
A minor child.
All right. So go ahead.
Well, okay. This is what we've been talking about. This is what we've been warning people. This is why we started True Christian Talk. There needs to be people out here that talk about these things and the absurdity. Now, I'm going to go back to what you were saying on this because I think it's a very important part. And we have said this before multiple times. We've said it before multiple times. The government eventually is going to say these churches are okay, these are not.
Yeah.
And these churches that are okay and you can go and worship at these churches are going to be churches that do the drag queen story.
Oh, yeah.
The churches that are not going to be okay are going to be the ones that preach that this is a sin. Now, Kevin, let's just take everything out of it. Let's just take everything out of it. Every one of us are sinners. You and I both agree to this.
Yes.
Every one of us are sinners. It does not matter what the sin is. God sees it the same way. Now, I know young Christians have a hard time. No, this is true. Come on. And let's just talk about sexual sins. We'll just use sexual sins instead of, saying murder or things like this. What are the degrees? That could be another show, But let's talk about sexual sins. If you have marriage, if you have sex outside the marriage, that is a sexual sin. It's just as bad as this going on right here. Mm-hmm. If you live a dual life of where you have a homosexual lover and a wife at home, it's still sex outside the marriage. It's still sin. Sex outside of marriage is a sin. All these are sins, okay? God looks at them the same. But I'm going to go back to this. Most of that time, that's two consenting adults. When you take a child and do it to a child, I think it's a higher level. Because God never looked at us and said, in any verse out there, if you commit adultery, it would be better that you had a millstone fastened around your neck. What he said was, but whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin. Luke, it would be better for him if a millstone were hung around his neck than to cause one of these little ones to sin. That's where I think that there's a difference, and that's where I think we need to look at this as we need to make sure. Look, two consulting adults, let them go do their thing. You touch a child, I'm sorry. I just read what he says here. Just read what he says.
That's the argument now. The argument for homosexuality or the LGBTQ existing within the church is that Jesus never spoke about. He never. He did. While Paul did, Jesus didn't say that homosexuality was a sin. That's the argument they'll make. Paul says it over and over and over again. But does that mean, because Jesus specifically didn't mention that, it's not a sin? Because he didn't mention a lot of things, right? I mean, we're very limited in the red letters, the things he did talk about. Some of the things that he didn't talk about were presumed by everybody. They didn't need to be said out loud. They were presumed by everybody to be a sin, right? Paul is the one that stands up to things like incest and homosexuality and things like that.
But see, you got to go to Matthew 19, because he says, and he answered and said, have you not heard that he who created them from the beginning made them male and female, and said, for this reason a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one in flesh. So they are no longer two, but one in flesh. So I know exactly what you're talking about because Christ wasn't there to rebuke. Christ was there to show love. So even though you might put in there that he never said anything, he quoted scripture from the Old Testament. Trust me, in the Old Testament, if the Jews found out that you were a homosexual, they would have taken you out and stoned you.
Well, there's Christians today that would do that. But the argument, I'm not saying this is a sound argument. I'm saying the argument is that he didn't say it. And the truth is he didn't specifically say it. He also didn't specifically say, worship me, right? But he clearly, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. He's saying he's God. Before Abraham was, I am.
Yeah.
I mean, there are ways that he says he's God. So, but that will be the argument. The argument will be, by the way, that this doesn't harm these children.
Gosh,
and by the way, people that in academia or people that want to be loved and respected by academia will embrace that type of logic. They already do.
Sure, they do.
So it is.
No, and I want you to understand,
idolatry.
I am not disagreeing with you on any of this. I just said that we have a sin. It is a sin. We need to look at it as a sin. And you and I see it the same way. You and I see it the same way. We see this as a sin. We see homosexual as a sin. But we don't condemn the person.
No.
We condemn the sin.
And it is. I see it as
now we want to put
the cracking open of the door. I think they're squeezing their toe in right now.
I agree.
And eventually they're gonna come in and they're going to be if you do not embrace everything, and we already see this, everything that we believe, then you hate us.
Yeah.
Then your silence is violence, right? If you do not speak out against if you do not speak out against things, then just by being quiet, you are committing violence, and therefore it's okay for me to retaliate in physical violence.
Right.
This is the way the world thinks. This is the way the left and the Democratic Party thinks, and they control everything, almost everything. So the church is going to have to do this. Dads are going to have to nut up and do this themselves. They're going to have to raise their kids. They got to stop. We got to stop with the broken homes.
Yeah.
We got to stop with we got to get back to the family values. We got to get back to the church and call me whatever you want to call me. Little House in the Prairie, Charles Ingalls, whatever. When we remove those things, the fabric of America fell apart, and it's probably too late.
I couldn't agree with you more. It started back when we started taking prayer out of the school. And, you know, it's funny. I know nobody that agrees with USA Today is watching this video, probably never will watch this video. They would blast us. I would invite them to come and watch the video.
Oh, they're reporting us right now. My friends that call me when they need me.
Yeah.
Also report me to how in the world could I be banned or shadow banned from everything if and I've even gotten emails saying somebody complained about this video or this comment or whatever. So I know my own friends are turning me in.
Well, what I'm trying to get at is that come on the show. Let's talk about this.
I think we should be doing that more.
I want to sit across the table from a person that's been charged with it before, is on the sexual offender page. We'll put a mask, we'll mask his face and all these things like this.
Well, even just somebody that could make the pro argument for this, like that pastor, say, or any pastor that could make the pro argument of this.
Sure.
But here's the thing: very few people, and I've been at the podcast business for a few years now. Very few people. Everybody will run their big mouths.
Good. You
on social media, but I've called these people, friends of mine, and said, "Hey, let's come on the show. Zoom in from New York City or whatever." Right. I could never do that. I'm still a cop. I'm still I'll lose my pension or whatever.
We can hide you.
So everybody's bold. Not everybody's bold enough to sit down and have a conversation, and that's the reality of what's going on. And that's, I think, big part of the problem, because we can't have the conversations we need to have. No one's willing to really have the hard conversations. They will have the hard conversations in a room full of people that agree with them.
Yeah.
And that's, maybe we're guilty of that too, for all I know. Very annoying.
Wow.
So we'll be wrapping it up here in a little bit. What advice do we give the people of the church when they see something like this? I have kids, right? I still have a 13 and a 16-year-old. I have conversations about this stuff with my kids. I think more parents need to be having those uncomfortable conversations with their kids than we used to. So some of the things about wokeness maybe are right. Maybe my parents didn't talk to me about this stuff, and they should have, right? Maybe the nuns should have taught us a little more about sexuality. I learned about sexuality from magazines.
Yeah.
I knew nothing about it, right? I was doing it before I thought I knew what it even was.
Yeah.
So perhaps part of the, if I'm going to pick a way that the left is right or academia is right, is that we do need to have these hard conversations with our kids. We can't avoid them. I talk to my kids about everything, and I'm hoping it doesn't screw them up.
Well, okay, what can we do about this? We have a children's safety event coming up on February the 12th, and it's at Generations Christian Church, 1540 Little Road, and we're talking about human trafficking and the things that we're seeing out here right now.
Is the retired deputy going to be? I forget his. I'm drawing a
Alan
blank.
Wilkett is going to be there. He's going to be speaking about human trafficking, but I'm going to talk about some of the things that we talked about today, of where we as Christians need to protect our children at all cost.
And there is
that. Let's just leave it at that. To me,
you've got to listen to Corporal Allen, because the numbers, the techniques, the intricacy of trafficking in children is mind blowing.
Well,
the number of people that do it, they have their own language, they have their own emoji symbols on social media. It's absolutely heartbreaking to see it.
I tell the story that he told me. He used to call me and talk to me about things going on. So he called me one day and he said, "Hey, listen, we just had two separate arrests, different people, different incidents that were pimps, putting these kids out there." And he said that when we debriefed them, two different guys in different times, different rooms and all stuff like this. He said when we debriefed them, they asked them, "Where are you fishing now?" And most of the time they say the internet or the mall. The mall. Well, the internet is the video games, or the mall. And both of these guys said churches, because it's just wide open. Nobody's paying attention. And when he said that, and he told me that, it immediately clicked in my mind that we had predators in our church that were doing things like this.
And we have, whether we realize it or not, we probably have a population that doesn't want to be considered inside our churches intolerant, and then so they'll remain quiet when they suspect things.
And being quiet is just as bad. It is a sin by not speaking up of the injustices.
Yeah.
It's this is why I think you and I got together and started doing this, is because we wanted to get out to people what we see as sins. Come debate us. If you don't believe us, come debate us. And what we see as sin, and we base all the stuff that we talk about is through biblical searching. I mean, how we bring up the verses and the different things like that. So when we can't sit on the sideline anymore and be quiet, you and I both. And so we're ready. We're ready to go. We're ready to go to war. Let's do it.
Well, normally we're laughing by the end of a show. Today we're not laughing, but we love you guys, and thank you always for watching. If there's anything we can do for you, message us at truechristiantalkinfo@gmail.com. You simply need prayer. You have questions about today's topic or any topic. You want to bring up a topic for a future show or be on a future show, let us know. Share this content, subscribe, like, click, whatever, all the things that comment,
subscribe,
thumbs up,
right?
All the good things, because believe me when I tell you, YouTube is not helping us a bit. They're shutting us down every chance they get. So we need the help of the viewers to help us spread this word.
I don't doubt that YouTube cringes every time they see Jim and Kevin on the show. but I listen. I know a lot of people that listen to us afterwards. Being on 11 o'clock, there's a lot of people at work, and I hear friends of mine say, "Hey, look, I tried to put you on. I'll listen to you later." Look. We got to have a smile on our face before we go, okay? Seriously. God is in control.
Absolutely. And
God is in control. God has so much for us to be doing, so much for us to be working. And the thing that he's going to do for us, is that he's going to bless us. So I will continue to walk down this path, even though I know that there's going to be arrows, there's going to be fire, there's going to be rocks, all these different things that are going to be thrown at us. I'm going to continue to do this, and I'm just, you know, somehow, somewhere, wherever we can do it, we'll do it. So
maybe if let's hope it does some good. So I don't want to be spending my time breaking even. I want to make a difference. So
I do too.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next Thursday, 11 o'clock. And if you want to be on the show or you want to comment, anything of that, truechristiantalkinfo@gmail.com. We love you. God bless, and we'll see you next week.
God bless you. God bless
smile,
you.
Jimmy.
Yeah, that's right.
God's
God bless
got
this
this
country. God's got it.
Bye.